Today, as you know, is World Poetry Day, so we thought we should gather pamoja and read a poem kidogo, or talk about poetry and the likes. So Dr. Bahaidar is to start. He will talk about the art of writing. He's a Mombasa at Academy 2008 alumni. Because he's running late kidogo, I will start a bit by maybe read a poem or two. I think one will be enough. And then hopefully by then, Dr. will join us and he will talk about the art of writing. And after Dr.Bahaidar, Aminatuzahra will speak about healing power of words. She's also a Nairobi 2015 alumni. And after that, Mashel, our office secretary, will talk about Turkish language and literature. So just to start, I start by a poem by, let's see. Let's start with Shakespeare's. That one is Shakespeare's Sonnet 30, where it talks about dear friend. It's a very short poem. So this is what I wanted to cite for you. Can you see the screen?
Yes, yes.
You can see the screen. So this is in Shakespeare's Sonnet 30. There is 1, 2, 3, and much more. Okay. So we start with Shakespeare's Sonnet 30, where it's about a dear friend, where Shakespeare says, when to the sessions of sweet silent thought, I summon up remembrance of things past. I sigh the lack of many things I sought, and with old woes, new wail my dear times west. Then I can drown an eye, unused to flow, the precious friends in deathless nights. And weep afresh love's long since cancelled woe, and mourn the expense of many a vanished sight. Then can I grieve at his woe, and heavily from woe to woe tell. And heavily from woe to woe tell over. The sad account of hope bemoaned one, which I knew pay as if not paid before. But if the while I think of thee, dear friend, all losses are restored and sorrows end. That was from Shakespeare. And I think if we're waiting for Bahaidar, is he here? Not yet. I think we can ask, maybe Bahaidar can come second because of time constraints. Let's see. Amina, is it possible you go first?
Yes, that's okay with me.
Yeah, okay, so let's start with, as we are waiting for Bahaidar. I think the floor is yours. Madam, if you can allow Amina to share the screen.
Oh no, it's okay. I don't need to.
No problem.
Yeah, I'll just, if this is okay, I'll like to speak like this. Okay, assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Aminatuzahra Kalebi. I am a 2015 Light Academy alumni from Nairobi Light Academy Girls. Yeah, and I'm alhamdulillah very happy to be here. Today is World Poetry Day, and I myself am a poet. I'm a Grand Slam Africa champion, the 63rd. I also have performed on multiple stages, and I go under the alias or the name the Poetic Snob. So that is my stage name, but I'm known as Aminatuzahra Kalebi by everyone else. I am also a student of psychology. I study in Daystar University. I'm currently in my 4th year, inshallah, completing by the end of this year. And so I'm a psychology student. I'm majoring in psychology and I am doing a minor in community development, alhamdulillah. So that is the field that I'm currently involved in. And today I just want to speak about the healing power of words. This topic is something I felt personally like I would be very good at sort of expressing, because for me, poetry and words have come at a time in my life where everything was sort of upside down. Alhamdulillah, through the power of words and using poetry helped me as a form of therapy, in a sense. And so I'd like to share with you all today, and those who will be watching this in the future, I would love to share the little bit of research that proves how words can heal. And so there are three little subsections that I can sort of explain to you today, because this is really such a vast area and I could speak about this for hours and hours and hours. So when my time is up, you will please let me know, because I can speak about this for a very long time. But to sort of sum it up, there are three major researches that have been done that explain the power of words and the healing power of words, that is. And the first one, in neuroscience, it is called labeling. And so labeling is being able to label an emotion and then using words so that your brain processes it and then consciously recognizes whatever emotion it is and then labels your emotion. And so you're able to move away from what you're feeling. Now, how this applies to what we're talking about today is that sometimes, I don't know if about anyone else, but personally, I'll be feeling sort of funny and I don't know what I'm feeling. And so when I write down what I'm feeling, my brain is able to process what I have written and then label it as an emotion, and then I'm able to move away from what I'm feeling. And so that is what labeling is. It is giving a certain emotion a name and then being able to let your brain process it and work away from it. And then the second thing is through writing. And so in psychology, we have what is called written therapy. And it is writing down and using words as a form of self-disclosure. And so it is giving yourself insight on what is happening inside of you. And this is now exactly what I have personally experienced with poetry, which is I have been able to put my emotions on paper, or I have been able to put myself on paper and been able to look at it and tell myself, okay, what am I feeling? Or I've been able to confront myself with what I'm feeling. And so with writing, it's really not about having to share as much as it is having to open yourself up to something. And so when you're opening yourself up to the paper, you're able to get over whatever it is that is up here, because you remove it from up here, you put it on paper, then you look at it again, and you're able to look at it from a different perspective. And funny enough, this is something that we use a lot in therapy when we're helping people who have gone through traumatic experiences. And so when you have people who have been through sexual assault, maybe, or terrorism, or broken homes, when they are able to express themselves through writing, new feelings. And then the third would be reading. Now, I know when we were in high school, I remember so many of our ablas used to tell us, like, you need to read, make sure you keep reading, don't stop reading. And like, we always just used to think, we have so much schoolwork to read, why would I go home and pick up another book? You know, like, that's such a common thing that as students we tell ourselves. But what I have discovered through reading is that it helps you therapeutically, in that you will read something and put yourself in that situation. And that gives you two perspectives. It, one, tells you you're not alone in what you're feeling, and two, helps you gain insight on what other people are feeling. And I think that's so powerful, because sometimes, for example, when somebody tells you they are maybe depressed, you know, you can't see depression. Unfortunately, you can't see mental illness. But when somebody puts it in words that you can understand and you read it, you're able to put yourself in their shoes and then feel what they're feeling through their words. So when you read, you gain a perspective from somebody else's perspective. So you gain a secondary perspective. And then there's also the aspect of you are feeling something and maybe you're afraid of feeling it or you're afraid of talking about it. But when you read that somebody else has gone through the same thing, it gives you a sense of closeness. It gives you a sense of, subhanAllah, I'm not alone in what I'm feeling. I'm not alone in what I'm experiencing. In my experiences, maybe it might be that you create empathy, you create a sense of togetherness with other people. And this is why reading and writing are so important, and they come hand in hand because they are ways of expressing. And so when you express emotion, when you express vulnerability, when you express empathy, they all come together at the end of the day so that you are able to create this sense of community or this closeness where you don't have to be with somebody physically for you to be able to connect with them. And I've had experiences where I have read a book from an individual who was so far away, probably doesn't know who I am, and I have read their book and have absolutely felt like those were my emotions. And so reading comes to play in the sense that it heals you in a way that you didn't know you needed healing. When you read somebody's book, when you pick up a book and read it, you put yourself in that situation, you imagine and you envision, and then you are able to bring yourself out of it with a whole different perspective, because reading sort of teleports your mind, it brings you to a completely different place, at least for me, that is. And I know for some people, reading might be so difficult because it can be so difficult to sit for a long amount of time or even a short amount of time. There are people who experience difficulties in just sitting and picking up a book and reading. And that's why we have things such as poetry chapbooks. We have short stories. It doesn't have to be that when you tell somebody you're reading a 1,000, 2,000 page novel or an autobiography or a biography. It doesn't have to be something so grand, It can be a small collection of poetry pieces, maybe 5, 10 sentences long. World that maybe you were in and you didn't know you were in, or that you didn't even know existed. And so what I love to tell people is, when I tell somebody to read, I don't tell them to finish a book or to finish a certain author or a certain genre. I tell them start with even the newspaper. Start with even just reading headlines. Sometimes it can be so difficult to put yourself in a mental space to sit and read. And I know that personally, and especially for people who suffer with things such as ADHD or dyslexia, it might be so extremely difficult to try and make yourself read. But these days we have things such as audiobooks where somebody reads for you. And what all this does is it reinforces that part of your brain, the limbic system in your brain, and it reinforces it and sort of gains new perspective. And so what it does is the reading, the writing, the labeling, all that it does is you are creating a new avenue in your brain where you're able to have different perspectives and you're able to now think beside yourself. And so what I would encourage anybody who is in a difficult time, if you cannot read, write. If you cannot write, I do this thing where I'll grab my phone and record myself, and I'll talk and talk and talk and talk and talk to nobody. I'll record myself and talk for even an hour if I can, and express whatever I am feeling. But that form of what we call in psychology catharsis is just basically expression. It is self-expression. It is release of emotion. And that is the best thing that you can do to start healing. When you confront whatever you're feeling, when you look at it and you say, okay, this is what I'm feeling, how am I going to deal with it? That is the best thing that you can do for yourself. And so I think I've spoken for a while, but I'd like to end with one of my favorite quotes that I personally always say is that when you say what you're feeling out loud and what is heavy in your heart, then you set yourself free from silent suffering. And that is so powerful because we are all silent sufferers. We all keep things inside of us that sometimes we just are terrified to express. But when you say it out loud, when it is out in the open, then that is forcing you to confront it. And that is honestly one of the best ways that you can heal yourself. And again, this isn't a replacement for therapy. It is what comes hand in hand with therapy, to help you work from wherever you are to a better place. So I think with all those many, many, many words, I'll be able to stop there and maybe ask somebody else to come along.
Thank you so much, Aminatuzahra. Thank you so much. Asante sana.
Welcome.
Nasir, I was wondering if she could read at least a poem, one of her poems, maybe.
She's here. Yes, Amina. Yeah,
Yes.
listen.
Yes. Oh, I don't know. I probably should. Yes. I have, unfortunately, so many pieces that you can never decide which one to read. But I think I can share with you one of my personal favorite pieces that I usually perform because it deals with something called body dysphoria and how people view their bodies. And so, with your permission, I'd like to continue. But let me get.
You want to continue?
Okay, great.
Of course.
I will turn off my camera so that you can hear my words a bit clearly.
No problem.
Tamam. This piece is titled "My Body," and it comes from a very special place in my heart, and I hope you all enjoy it. My body knows a feast. My body thinks the whole world is a buffet. My body knows the kitchen as a slice of heaven. My body knows the difference between potatoes but can't solve math equations. My body knows to solve for X, but doesn't know how to. My body knows how to solve for X, but doesn't know how to count carbs. My body knows cake isn't served in one slice. My body knows 4 pints of ice cream on a cold day and doesn't know when to stop. My body knows dancing and falling, jiggling at my lack of rhythm. My body knows to laugh at itself when I trip over thin air, laughing because gravity isn't a force that can keep me down. My body knows shame, knows to squeeze itself into small places, knows wrapping a belt around my waist and calling myself a present because we like fitting ugly things into small packages. My body knows razors aren't only for shaving. My body knows hiding bruises between my thighs brings less questions. My body knows fear of heart attacks and diabetes. My body knows fear of mirrors, knows rejection. My body knows being afraid of itself. My body knows looking into a mirror and never loving what I see. My body knows standing in front of a crowd and wondering if they can see my roles. I don't just hide rolls, I hide food in the cupboards too for the days I am sad, but these days I am sad more, so I eat more. I don't think that's a problem, but my doctor says it might be. But who listens to their doctors anyway? I've been in this body so long that at some point it stopped feeling like my own because being in this body for so long has stopped me from counting calories as I try to count back to all the mistakes I have made, trying to jam the fingers down my throat and put my meals back in reverse, so stops me from eating so quickly. My psychiatrist tells me that I do not have anorexia or bulimia, that it is depression that makes me feel this way. I tell my friend, but she tells me I smile too much to have depression. I tell her, wouldn't you think so? She looks at me and tells me that all she sees is beauty. I tell her, I wish I had her eyes. She tells me she wishes she had my words. I tell her she should take them all if one day it means that I will look at myself and love what I see, but I don't. So I have learned to stop looking. Thank you. That was a short piece of mine. I hope you enjoyed that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming and thank you for sharing that. That was nice.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Dr. Bahaidar is here. Thank you so much, Aminatuzahra. Thank you so much. It was really powerful and thank you for the talk. We really appreciate. Dr. Bahaidar is here. As before we give him the time, let me talk kidogo. As Amina was talking about the healing power of words and how important it is to put words down. A musical artist and writer was asked what is the importance of poetry in our world today. Back in the days, poetry was very important. people were contesting to write poetry kings and impress them. Now Alice was asked, well, in the world today, what's the importance of poetry? And she says, poetry is so important because it helps us understand and appreciate the world around us. Poetry's strength lies in its ability to shed a sideways light on the world, so the truth sneaks up to you. Poetry teaches us how to live. That's what she said, and I think that's very right. So in this regard, before I give Dr. Bahaidar a chance to speak, I'll take 2 minutes to speak about to read to you a poem by William Blake, one of my favorite poets. The poem is called A Poison Tree, where he speaks about the importance of letting out your feelings to whatever disturbs you, whatever you're going through. So, can you see my screen?
We can see you. Can see the
Okay.
screen.
Real quick. So, the poem goes by the name A Poison Tree. Now, William Blake says, I was angry with my friend. I told my wrath did end. I was angry with my foe. I told it not. My wrath did grow. And I watered it in fears, night and morning with my tears. And I sunned it with smiles and with soft, deceitful wiles. And it grew both day and night till it bore an apple bright. And my foe beheld it shine, and he knew that it was mine. And into my garden stole when the night had veiled the pole. In the morning glad I see my foe outstretched beneath the tree. Hence, thank you very much for joining us. So I will give the floor to Dr. Bahaidar, where he'll speak about the art of writing. Dr. The floor is yours.
Hello, everyone.
Hello,
Perfectly clear.
Dr. We can hear you.
Yes, Mashel Auma.
Yes.
Thank you, mwanzo.
Karibu sana daktari.
I appreciate. Samahani mwanzo nimechelewa. Nilikuwa caught up with the jam.
No problem.
You're all okay. I'll first like to appreciate effort alofanya Aminatuzahra with the beautiful poet. I'm really impressed, in short. What tukiingilia sana, what I came to realize, poet is all about self-expression. And what I've heard, it's all about someone expressing oneself. And writing is all about that. So they're just categories whereby will the words be uniform? It's more of how you play around with languages. So when we talk of the art of writing kuna challenges kubwa these days. And we have a lot of people who are writing. Some who can write some poetry, vitu kama hivyo, some in fiction and the rest. But at the end of the day, a lot of these materials zinakuwa nyumbani. I have a book, yeah, I've written a book, yes. Lakini after that, there's nothing more. Hicho kitabu amebaki asoma peke yake. So this is the challenges that we face as our community. Kwa sababu number one, it's not that we are not good in writing. We might be very good. But now the strategy of how I will write, then publish it, then how I will market it and all that. So this becomes the challenging part. And the expenses that we incur in this costing that we do research and the rest. So I feel that this is a good platform, number one, to share the ideas that everyone anajua kitu ambacho anakijua. So when we share ideas, at least we can help one another. Sasa what I've heard, the two poetry zimesemwa sasa hivi, they're very nice, very impressive. Yeah, you could feel that kitu gani mtu azungumza. It's more like a movie. Yeah, and this is what we need. And one of the things that people indulge in writing is more of stress relieving. And this is the exact thing that I saw in Aminatuzahra. And it's more of too. And it's a stress reliever. Once you share that pain with the rest, then at least the world can understand, number one. And number two, it helps you release that burden. And I've seen a lot of people who are in depression, and most of the psychologists, they tend to tell them, can you just relieve those pain through either writing or talking to someone? Kuna watu, they're able to talk, while others, they can't. So the best way for those who are shy is just jot it down. What do I feel? So these feelings can help others, kwa sababu whatever we feel in depression, in pain, and all that, whenever we are hurting, there are others who are in a similar situation. So when you can read something you can relate, it helps you also. So what I believe is we need to come up with a different structure of how we can help these people who can write and their potentials are just at home. Hakuna kitu inafanyika, they are struggling kwa sababu they expect that this will be a source of income, but it never does. So there's a lot of challenges that I've seen in publishing. Just to be clear, I'm an author of 5 books in America and UK, at least some people can understand that. Now, the challenges were not easy for me to publish these books. Number one, a lot of costings. There's a lot of money that is involved in it. Now, apart from that, there's a lot of scam at the end of the day. Someone will pay them a lot of money. Okay, I want to publish my book. Your book is very good. People are impressed with my work and all that. But at the end of the day, kuna watu, as publishing companies, they tend to benefit from these innocent souls. So what I suggest is, number one criteria is, if you are interested to publish any book, what I feel is, lazima utizame the publishing company that you are about to indulge with. Tizama, do they have books in Amazon? Because today the biggest platform of books is Amazon. Or if they have, then at least that is a certain surety, but we are still not sure. Kwa sababu ukitizama Kenyan market, especially what we have, the self-publishing, we have 2 kinds of publishing, self and traditional publishing company, where traditional are not found in Africa, in short. But in Europe, UK, US, and the rest, you can find them. So what I'm suggesting is, self-publishing is always expensive. It is expensive because you have to pay for the editing services, you have to pay for the design of the cover, you have to pay the publishing company, you have to pay for the marketing services, and you're not sure whether your books will be sold or not. The easier way is traditional, but it's not easy to get there. Traditional, what they do is a concept whereby they buy your book and they assist you in revenue sharing, whereby they do all the work. They incur all the expenses, they do intense marketing worldwide, they ensure your books are in publishing company kila mahali ulimwenguni. They do all that, but at the end of the day, you'll get a certain commission, and it's more of royalty fees that you'll be getting. But now, the challenging part is the traditional publishing company is tricky. Kwa sababu, number one, they won't agree to deal with an author most of the times, unless there is a unique case that your book is selling very well and they want to get it. That's a different case. Most of the time, they prefer to deal with an agent, where they are looking at a proposal whereby we need 100 books to publish from you as an agent. So agent aikusanye vitabu mautha ngapi, these are good books, 100 books, ndo wasign deal wao na wao. So in that sense, hata kama ile payment upate, at the end of the day, there'll be a cut for the agent, the cut of traditional publishing company, and the rest. So my suggestion is, if we can form a crew whereby all these are authors wameandika vitabu, and we represent these authors to this traditional publishing company, it is a win-win situation. So you'll have someone, at least, and watakuwa kama spokesman wenu. The good part with them is the books, at the end of the day, zitakuja mpaka Kenya stores, but wao ndo watakuwa na supply. They don't deal with the publishing companies in Kenya. So if we can have a group, this is just my suggestion. Kuna watu wanaingilia poetry, kuna watu wana fiction writing, kuna watu wanaingia motivational, inspirational books. So all that is okay. Different genre is fine. But at the end of the day, if we don't work collectively, then I fear that a lot of this potential will be lost. So my suggestion is, if with Light Academy and the alumni, a lot of people have been in this department, this sector, why don't we join and find a crew that they're all authors? Let's see how many books zinapatikana. We pitch this story with the traditional publishing company kadhaa. We see the response. Then at least this work zitakuwa na international recognition na zitakuja back in Kenya. But one thing that we need to understand, in Kenya, readers hakuna. Let's be realistic. One, we have a lot of authors, but we don't have readers. So it will be tricky for you to sell your books in Kenyan market. Of course, utauza kidogo, hata kama si nyingi, but potential zaidi ziko nje kuliko hapa. So what I thought tuzungumzie zaidi leo ni kwamba hizi challenges ambao watu wapata. Challenges kwamba mtu hajui afanye nini, hana guidance, hajui materialango. Kuna so many mistakes ambazo ziko. Na what I believe is, si lazima wewe uwe a writer ndo uwe an author. These are two different things, but most people confuse them. You can be an author, but you're not a writer. Kwa nini I'm saying this? Is that kuna watu wana brilliant ideas. Maybe I want to come up with a story. I want to write something about some case study, let's say I did. Vitu kama hivyo. You are writing, maybe you're not that good in English, which is fine. So it doesn't mean kwamba wewe you're not good in English, then you cannot write. That is a lie. You can write. Now, kuna watu, that's why we have editors of different, kuna structural editing, kuna watu ambao wata edit to proofread na vitu kama hivyo. So once you are able to put your thoughts into a paper, you are an author. But now, si lazima kizungu kiwe kizuri, no. You can get help from other people. And that's why we join ventures na vitu kama hivyo. My journey of writing, mimi nikianza kuandika, mimi I was never good in English. So that's the funny part. Mimi in primary, kuna time nilikuwa nikiandika composition na mwalimu wangu. Yani class teacher, composition anataka kusoma kwa excitement ni yangu. Si kwamba ati ni nzuri, no. Ilikuwa mbovu sana na sasa inafanywa jokes ndani ya class yenu. So haimaanishi, ukitizama katika historia, mimi nilikuwa last in class, nikipasi sana second last. Yeah, I went class 1, grade 1 na jaribu interview nimefeli, class 4 nimerepeat mara 3 skuli 3 tofauti. I went to 9 schools from primary mpaka high school. Tukamalizia Light Academy where we get very good education system. Then we went abroad. Exposure ndo imetusaidia. So I'm talking through experience. Kwamba we have these challenges, we have a problem that someone cannot express themselves. How do we help these people? Ona, kitu simple tu ukitizama, most of us watamaliza skuli, they did very well, yeah? Wana CV yao, very good CV. Anaenda kwa kampuni bana, I want a certain job. Sawa, yake. What tell us about yourself, ajui. Asa una CV kubwa, lakini you cannot self-express. And this is the challenge that we're facing. My suggestion is, in our schools, Light Academy is doing a great job. And wamejaribu sana kuweka hata wale waliomaliza skuli kuwa bring on board and see how they can work together, which is a very impressive thing. And my suggestion is, if we can have classes where tuweza saidia watu how to self-express themselves, then it will really help them, not only spoken, but written also. Kuna some people are very good. Kishika kuzungumza, kishika mic, wewe ukasahau. Yeah, because they are good in speaking. But at the end of the day, kuna wengine they are not good in speaking. Kuna watu they are good in writing. So how do we help them? So if we can have this kind of seminars every now and then, by kuonesha kwamba sikupotea njia. So you did a mistake hapa na pale, let's improve. Let's get you where you want to be. And I believe writing is a skill that you can nurture. Si lazima uwe nao. Mimi, I was bad in English, as I said. Lakini sasa hivi, I have books. Alhamdulillah. At least people recognize, nimepata award. Alhamdulillah. So we did this kwa sababu kuna concept of mimi nilikuwa kuna something I want. Nilikuwa na vision. I want to be someone. Now sometimes the more you receive some no's from people, that should be your motivation. Mtu akwambia we mjinga, we nini, failures, you nini, all this are there in our community. But that shouldn't demoralize you. You can get to somewhere, you can get somewhere. So what I will just finalize with, kwa sababu nikishika kuzungumza hapa tuza kupoteza time nyingi. So what I will finalize with is, I'll just give you a small example of Ogmadino. I would prefer kila moja kama ataweza kusoma kitabu cha Ogmadino, kinaitwa The Greatest Salesman in the World. Sasa hivi kimeuzwa over 20 million copies all over the world. Kimeandikwa kitabu hichi kwa almost 50 different languages. Ogmadino alikuwa ni kijana who was very good in writing. Hata katika skuli alikuwa akipewa zile magazine akiziedit yeye, akiandika some stories na vitu kama hivyo. Na mamake siku zote alikuwa akimwambia, my son, wewe utakuja fika mbali na writing. Lakini ikaendelea mpaka kufika wakati alipokuwa miaka 15 arejea nyumbani hivi, mamake alianguka, alikuwa na cancer akafariki. This kid lost hope. Akawa sasa hajui afanye nini, confused with life na vitu kama hivyo. Akaingilia jeshi, akafanya akazunguka kuna kula, akaingilia kuosha vyombo, akaingilia kazi nyingi. Zikaenda, kaoa, akawa mlevi. There's a lot of things that were happening kwa sababu ya nini? Hajajijua purpose yake nini. And this is something that is in us, ambapo kama ninavyozungumza healing, the power of healing, it's all about first is understanding yourself. Now, what is my purpose in this life? If you have two things in you, then it's easy to maneuver in whatever situation you're in. So alikuwa katika struggle nyingi sana. So the only thing he thought best is ashawachwa na mke wake, anamkimbia na watoto, na so all this akaamua siku moja acha mimi niingie. Alikuwa pita na ulevi wake, akaona library mahali in UK. Akiingia akisema acha niingie tu, I don't have nothing, sina kazi, sina nini. Akaingia katika library. Kuingia katika vitabu, kusoma ikamrevive ile aspect ya writing. Sema why don't I write? Huyu kijana leo hii as we are talking ashafariki, ashakuwa mtu mzima, lakini at that time alikuwa lost hope, but writing ndio ilimrejesha leo kuwa ulimwengu mzima mtambua. Na there is a lot of examples ambao leo ukiona imewafikisha mbali kuandika. Mmoja wao ni mwanamke aliandika Harry Potter. Mpaka alivyokuwa lost hope na typewriter akaandika kitabu cha kwanza Chamber of Secret. There's a lot of story. Leo hii tukizungumza he made $500 million kupitia vitabu vyake vya Harry Potter. Ambapo Harry Potter hiyo alipitch katika publishing company nyingi, almost 12 publishing companies zilimkataa. Ambaye ni story gani tuweza andika hii? Ni story gani nani atakaosoma? But it just took one person, alichukua kaletewa publishing company bana, kisome kitabu changu. Ampelekea manuscript. Akishika za story gani akaachana nao. Siku hiyo akaenda nyumbani akichukua akaenda nyumbani. Kwa bahati mbaya akiacha nyumbani. Kiacha nyumbani kuna mtoto wake mdogo wa kike. Akaona pale manuscript bana anaweza kusoma. Akasema soma. Kuna mtu anileta kitabu atakakipublishia nisoma. Akisoma akasema baba hii lazima upublish hizi kitabu kizuri sana. So mtoto mdogo ndo amemspea babake kwa publish hichi kitabu na leo kimetaniwa movies nyingi sana. So challenges ziko. Ikiwa Harry Potter imemchukua miaka 10 mpaka publish kitabu. So hakuna kitu cha ajabu. Na wengi. So all what I'll say is, kwa wale ambao wako katika field in writing, just try your best and let's see how we can help each other ufike pale ambapo ufike. Kila mmoja na dreams zake, kila mmoja na ndoto zake. Lakini what I believe in, what always I live by, ni kwamba when you see a caterpillar, you will never predict it will be a butterfly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. let's open a few minutes for questions for Daktari if we have any. Anybody with a question to Daktari? But Daktari, do you think our TV series and Netflix is killing our reading culture?
Wajua nitakwambia kuna aina nyingi ya watu na kila mmoja ana ufahamu wake tofauti. Sasa hivi as we are talking, mimi katika publishing company nilianza kupublish na kuna kitabu changu cha hard copy, paperback na ebook. Whereby kulikuwa na time hard copy was everything. Ikaja time paperback is much cheaper. Ikaja time ebook ndo kila moja sasa yake za kasoma online. It's fine. Sasa hivi kumechange. Audiobooks ndo kila kitu, mtu anakaa ndani ya gari anasikiliza tu audio. Kitabu chako chote kizima kimesemwa. Wewe waiweka tu katika USB yako ama CD unasikiliza. And now the world is evolving now into movies. The same book can be turned into a movie. Now it's called a book to screen concept. Sasa sisi kweli social media inatu affect kwa sababu hakuna kitu meaningful inawekwa pale, na tuwezi welaumu watu kwa sababu ni mtu amekuja na platform bwana, ekeni mnachotaka nyinyi kama YouTube. Nyinyi mwabandika mavideo yenu na nini, yule anapata crowd nyingi, advertisement inapitia pale, mnalipwa. So this aspect iko ya kwamba we are more into our technology sasa hivi. But now the question is, si ati kuondoa hizi technology which is impossible, but how do we work with the technology? Ona, sasa ikiwa watu they are more into short clips, let's say short movies, why don't we drive our agenda from these books into short movies or movies zenyewe ama series zenyewe ama talk shows? People also they love talk shows, short talk shows, and you are good to go. Kuna concept moja ya jamaa anaitwa Nas Daily, sijui kama umshamsikia. Is a famous Palestinian guy ambaye alikwenda Amerika na kajaribu biashara nyingi zikafeli, lakini akaona let me try this, akachukua kamera yake akaanza vlogging, whereby he started doing a 1-minute video. He 1-minute video kueleza facts of life, akawakizunguka kila mahali. Today ulimwengu mzima mtambua. Leo mpaka ameitwa Dubai, apewa visa Dubai. Kabla alikuwa Singapore, amepewa visa. Yani watu wako tayari kuinvest into his project. Why? Kwa sababu ya followers. It's all about the crowd. So kuna watu hata wameanzisha short clips, wamesimama tu nyumbani pale akawa train watu kuhusu kitu fulani, which is educative. Sawa. Sasa kitabu chako mweza kuanzisha a causes of books whereby unakuwa unafundisha watu, kwa sababu nitakwambia si kila mmoja they are good in reading. Kuna watu waoboesha kisha soma page moja ashasinzia. Tusemeni ukweli. Si watu wote wamezoea vitabu. But at the end of the day, waweza ukamfundisha yule mtu kitabu chako mwenyewe, lakini kikamimpact katika maisha yake na jamii yake na nini, vitu kama hivyo. So if we have this kind of seminars, zinasaidia sana. Sawa, social media they have their effect, but we can use it to our advantage. And there's a lot of things that we can channel and use the other way around kuliko kitu ambacho tumezoea.
Sawa daktari. Asante sana. Any more question? Anybody with any question to Daktari? I can see CJ is here. Mwalimu bwana CJ is here. Mwalimu karibu sana bwana. Welcome bwana CJ.
Thank you very much, Nasir. And Daktari, very insightful, very detailed presentation. Asante. I'm following through.
Karibu sana.
All right, thank you.
We have our last speaker for the day before we get a vote of thanks from teacher. Mashel Auma is our secretary at our office. Mashel will talk to us about, give us a small insight to Turkish literature. Mashel, karibu sana. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I would request to share something briefly, just maybe a front page.
Of course, Mr. Hoja, please saidia Mashel. Mashel, are you able to share?
I will shortly. Thank you.
Are you able to?
Maybe you can see. It's not something. I just want to share screen.
No problem.
Hope you can see my screen.
Carry on.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, yes, Mashel. I can see it very well.
Good. So thank you. Good evening, everybody. I want to thank first the first speakers, Aminatuzahra, who spoke so much about the healing power of words, and we learned so much. And she also talked so much also about how it's important to speak, and she crowned it all with a nice poem. Thank you so much. Also, I want to thank Dr. Bahaidar for such a wonderful presentation. I'm very passionate about writing, even though the challenges he has mentioned are some of the things that are keeping us behind. We have had several times to speak with him. Thank you. So today I want to talk about the insights of Turkish literature. I am Mashel Auma. I graduated from Ege University in 2019 in Turkish language and literature. Right now, I work in the Alumni office as secretary. At the same time, I teach Turkish. So thank you so much. I hope we'll have a nice time. So briefly, I will not go deep into the Turkish language and literature history, but it's because it's a very long, large, voluminous thing, and I don't want to mention so much about that. But I will just give you briefly, because this side of the world we don't know so much about the Turkish history or Turkish literature, and so it's not even in our syllabus as the last time I checked. So the Turkish literature, which is also called Türk Edebiyatı, Türk Dili ve Edebiyatı, actually, it's divided into several categories. But I would like to talk about the Turkish literature pre-Islamic time. So this is the time when the Turkish people had not accepted Islam as a religion, and then there is the period after the Islam. So after they accepted Islam as a religion, so during this time they produced several, works that are there. For instance, before the Islamic time, there were several art works that they gave out. So I will talk about that. Also talk about the Turkish literature as influenced by the Western cultures or Western education, or it's kind of that. So let's just begin from the word go. So we have the Turkish literature pre-Islamic times, and during this time we had some of them are called anonymous works, or just things that are not written. Some are written also. So there are several works there, and it is this period is about the 11th and the before 10th century. So excuse me. So during this time, there was also the period when, after the Turks interacted with the Persians and the Arabs, then they started producing literature or works in literature. During this time, we have what is called Divan Edebiyatı, or it is just the classic literature, and there's also the folklores, as we also have in Kenya or in the English, and we also have others which are called Dini Tasawufi. These are related to religion so much. So later on, we have the literature of the Turkish people as influenced by the Western. Sorry, I think I was muted wrongly. I want to talk about here the Turkish literature side. So we have something called Tanzimat. We also have others, and I will talk very detailed way about this. So as I was talking about the classic literature, I want to say that the influence of by the Arabs and the Persians so much, and during this time we can say it is between uh, there are some centuries there that I will mention about the classic literature. So we have the 11th and 14th century, 11th and 14th century is the period when this literature started forming, the Turkish literature. And then the 15th century moved forward very well, and they started producing good works of literature. So there are some people who are known in this period. I will mention some of them. Like if you look at my screen, there is somebody there called Fuzuli. He's a 16th century or 15th century, late 15th and mid 16th century poet. There is somebody called Ahmed Pasha. He died in 1490. And there's somebody called Nejati. There's Zati. There's Fuzuli. And we also have other 16th century poets like Baki, Levi, Hayai. We have somebody called Tashkijal Yahya. These are very prominent writers or poets in the classic time of the Turkish literature. And I want to say that during this time, the poets, because they existed during also the Ottoman Empire, they were very much given a lot of they were paid salaries actually by the emperor. So it was a good time. And if you look at history, the 16th century produced one of the most greatest period of time that the Turkish Empire and the Turkish literature was above, or we can say it was the most successful time. So when we talk about the Turkish literature as influenced by the Western culture, we have the first one is called Tanzimat. So Tanzimat it began in 1860 to 1895. Sorry, it was the 19th century time when now people wanted to, copy else and culture a lot. And during this time, there were so many also wonderful poets that were produced. We have Zia Pasha, we have Nami Kemal, we have Ibrahim Sinashi, we have Ahmed Mitar Effendi. We have so many of them. I will mention some of them just for the sake of mentioning. It's a lot wider topic. I just want to mention a few things there. So we have somebody called Ahmed Refik Pasha, Semseddin Sami, Shamseddin Sami, Rijai Mahmud Ekrem, and many others. So this period started with a decree in Turkish when the emperor allowed some changes to happen in the government, and so people started producing. During this time, there were several works that were produced. For example, there was what they call Roman. We called it novels. So this period, they started producing novels, just like the Western side. And there was also modern stories, or what they call hikaye. And there was theater, and there was gazette, or the newspaper started being produced. And there was also other works that were produced. And this is a very important period because from then it laid foundation to the future Turkish works that were produced. So there is also Servet-i Fünun period that comes later on, which also produced much more, works also. And during this time we have people like Mehmet Akif. I made a picture of Mehmet Akif up there. I wanted to talk briefly about Mehmet Akif Ersoy because his place is very important also in the Turkish literature. He's the one who authored the Turkish national anthem, and on this month, the 21st of March, they celebrated the 100 years since the national anthem was proclaimed. So Mehmet Akif Ersoy is one of the most important authors also of the modern Turkish literature. And there are several others. The Turkish people proclaimed their republic in 1923. And during that time, there is a period now of literature called the literature in the modern or the period, republics period. And during this time, the language, as we see, is kind of the written language is nearer to the spoken language. Before the written language, as I said, was really influenced by the the Persian language and the Arabic language. And after the Republic period, the language was not so far away from the spoken language. So most people could read and understand what was being said. So during this time, there are also very important names here. I will mention quite a few. There's somebody called Kemal Tahir. There is Orhan Kemal, and there's Yashar Kemal. Very important writers, very important people. There's Jamal Sureya, there is Edip Jansever, and many others. There are so many. I wish we had time to discuss most of them, but I want to say that there's a wealth of knowledge to look at into whatever these people put up, just not the language, but also the works that they put. I have shared here a short, it's called Ghazal, and it's a masrah. It's just a short stanza of a poem written by Fuzuli in the 16th century. I will read it and maybe try to explain a little bit of what it's saying before I can finish. It's a long topic, and I'm sorry to take it so fast, but there's so much I could explain and it could take a lot of time. So I will read this briefly and I will try to explain what Fuzuli is saying here. So, Ashiani Murgidil, Zulfi Perishanandadır, Kanda olsam ey peri, gönlüm senin yanındadır. So this is a classic Turkish poem, and this was during the 16th century. It talks about a poet. There is what they used to talk about was symbolic language, and they used to talk about it's a love song. If you like, there is somebody who you love, and you describe how the person is, and there are symbols like the hair of the normally the man describing a woman, and it's given like the relationship of a person. It's to God. So this is how it is being analyzed. So this person says that Ashiani Murgidil. So he says that I have made my house in your hair, and wherever you are, actually I have not, but my heart or my conscience is in your hair, and so wherever you go, I am always with you. So it's trying to say that his relationship actually with God is so close that wherever he is, he is always with you. Normally, it's taken literally to mean that he's describing himself as a small bird, and he has made a house in somebody's hair. It's kind of literal that way, and wherever this person is together with him, and we're together with her at that time. So you can say when they say Kanda olsam ey peri gönlüm senin yanındadır, it's like whenever you are, or you can say even if my hands are placing always with you. So there's a lot of things I could say about Turkish literature, but it's a good there are good works of people who made lots of several works in this period of time, and the 19th century, the 16th century, and even the 20th century, there were several works that were produced. So thank you all much. I was just giving a brief description about the Turkish literature. Thank you so much. Back to you, Nasser.
Wow. Wow. Asante sana Bwana Mashel. Thank you very much. We appreciate the time. We appreciate the lesson learned. If anybody has a question for Mashel regarding Turkish literature, I know the literature is very wide, and we thank you for the summary, Mr. Mashel.
Thank you.
Any word from anybody? Okay, if not, I think I started by a poem from William Shakespeare, Dear Friend. I moved 1 century later to A Poison Tree by William Blake. And now I'm going to the last of the day from Maya Angelou. How can we talk about poetry and poetry day without speaking of Maya Angelou? So I'll talk about Maya Angelou's poem, The Caged Bird. I think this relates very well to us and the life we're living right now. Some of us are privileged and some of us are not. So it's important the ones who are privileged to appreciate their privilege, of course not to look down upon it. And the ones who are not, to what can I say? And before I reach the poem, I read a quote from Angela says, "The free bird has no need of song, but the caged bird sings because it is not free." So a caged bird for Maya Angelou. A free bird leaps on the back of the wind and floats downstream till the current ends, and dips his wing in the orange sun rays, and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through. His bars of rage, his wings are clipped, and his feet are tired, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but longed for still, and his tune is heard on that distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a down bright lawn, and he names the sky his own. But a caged bird stands on the grave of dreams. His shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but long for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. That is Maya Angelou. I'll conclude by that. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for the coming and thank you for taking your time. Because of time, I think we will end our program by a word of thanks from our chairman, from the patron of our club. Our club is a book reading club from Alumni, and our patron is Peter Koyer. So, and I would kindly ask Dr. Bahaidar if you could share us a link or something to your books in our group here, I will appreciate. So, Peter Koyer, if you could give a vote of thanks, the floor is yours. Karibu.
Hello, how are you? Good evening.
Good evening.
I would like to thank all the, the presenters who've given us insightful presentations. I'd like to thank, what's the name? Kalebi for her presentation on healing power words, Dr. Bahaidar on the art of writing, and also Mashel on the insights into Turkish literature. Nasur for the presentation, and also you, the audience, for participating. I'd just like to add something. What's it called? Let me see. So, poetry, yes, poetry speaks for all and touches our hearts. And that's what I wanted to say. And also there's this famous saying from, is it called Aristotle? And he said, poetry is finer and more philosophical than history. For poetry expresses the universal and history only the particular. That's what I would like to leave with. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you,
That's good.
Thank you, Peter.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that. I think we have come to the end of our program. Please keep in touch with us. When I CJ, we look for you for advice in the book reading club. When I'm CJ, open your doors for us.
Thank you. I will. When time avails, we will do it.
I will visit you, Kidogo, and with Peter, maybe you can give insights about our book reading club. We are very privileged to have people like Dr. Bahaidar here, and Aminatuzahra have added to our club. So we thank you everyone for coming, and we appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Karibuni sana.
Okay.
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening to you.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much.